Hi guys, I'm here again to talk about attention-seeking pets this time. If you are going out today, be careful because there's going to be a lot of snow coming in. I was talking to my friend in Winnipeg and she told me this story about her dog. She was recently on a 3-week trip to India for a friend's wedding, and when she got back, her dog was very clingy, and that's normal, especially when people are away. But this dog in particular, she cries if she doesn't get attention, if she's paying attention to somebody else, and she's bringing toys over, she's tried crawling in her lap, and she can't get, good morning Monica, and she can't get her attention. She will literally sit at her feet and cry. Now, I found out more recently that this dog was found at the side of a highway, and usually trauma is a really big indicator that the dog is going to have attention-seeking and separation anxiety issues. But I was thinking about more topics to talk about for my live videos, and I thought this would be a good one because I have worked with a lot of animals that have attention-seeking issues. So, the first and most important thing, which can sometimes challenge pet parents enough that they just give up altogether, is figure out what the root cause of the attention-seeking behavior is. Most of the time, I would say it's trauma, some type of abuse in their past, whether they're from a puppy mill, depending on where you got them from. If you adopted them from somewhere, usually they take a little bit to warm up, but then they're very protective and clingy. It could be a change in their environment. For example, somebody gets a new job and they have different hours and they're not home. A kid goes off to school. Your wife has a baby, or you get a new pet and they get more attention. You're moving, somebody gets a new job, any of that stuff can disrupt the balance and the dynamic in their house, and that can upset them quite a bit. Separation anxiety is a really common pair that happens with animals that are attention seeking. Usually I don't want to say usually, but I see attention seeking more often in smaller animals. Around mealtime, usually it's about the same because the animals want to eat, and if you acknowledge them and feed them at the dinner table, then quite often they will want your attention while you're eating permanently. Every time you eat, once you set that standard, they will keep coming back. So a big part of it is not to coddle them. If there's something traumatic going on, like they're afraid of thunderstorms and they seek your attention and protection during thunderstorms, then that's a little more normal. But for dogs that cry every time you're not looking at them or touching them or something like that, then that is a problem, and it can stress out a lot of owners, so it's something that needs to be addressed for sure. So beyond not coddling them, this includes if they're crying or you're in the middle of something and they're not in danger and they just want your attention, giving them attention is only going to reinforce that behavior. So for example, if I was in the middle of this video and Kaya crawled over into my lap and wanted me to pet her, that I can acknowledge her, but I can't direct my attention towards her because I'm in the middle of something. If, for example, she really, really badly needed to go to the bathroom, that's a different story. But if she's just doing it because she wants attention, then that needs to be a separate issue. Don't give them extra treats. A lot of people, when their dogs or pets want attention, they just give them a toy or a treat or a bone or something, and that's supposed to occupy their time. Not really a good method because this can obviously lead to things like obesity or toy protection, all the resource protection. But in a lot of cases, this can cause the animal to be protective of you as well because you are now the resource that gives them extra things, and these things have value to them. So if they start getting really protective of you or protective of their bones or their toys, this can often be a cause because they really just want your attention and your affection. But if you direct them to a toy or something like that instead, they're going to start treasuring the toy and have issues if anybody comes near it. So that can be a really big safety issue. An important way to start this, I'm not a dog trainer by any means, but from the animals that I've worked with behaviorally that have these series of issues, because it's usually not just one, typically what I recommend is to set boundaries. So for example, if your dog sleeps in your bed or beside you or on the floor, you need to widen the gap a little bit. So for example, Kai sleeps on my mom's bed, and if I wanted to widen the gap, Kai would permanently sleep on the floor. She would not be allowed to sleep on the bed. She's still close enough that if she gets anxiety, my mom is right there, but she can't physically go up and jump on the bed and be there. Slowly widen the gap so your pet becomes more independent, because a lot of times it will continue to get worse the more you reinforce that behavior. Even if you don't think that you're reinforcing it, a lot of times you are. Do not let them sit in your lap. This is obviously for smaller animals, but letting them sit in your lap, especially when you have company over, can reinforce the idea that they're protecting you and other people are not allowed in your space. So it's definitely not a good way to go about it. Start reinforcing that they have to, for example, lay beside the couch. So you can set out a towel or put a toy at the base of the couch for them and acknowledge them and say, kind of explain to them, talk to them, because they can't understand a lot of words that you say. So don't be afraid or shy to talk to them. Often when something different is happening at our house, I'll kind of explain it to Kai and I'll say, okay, this person's coming over, but we need you to be really mellow because they may not be a super big fan of dogs. And I know that you're a lovely girl and most people adore you, but this person probably won't want to pet you. And usually she's perfectly fine. When she greets people, she lays down and it's like she's not even there. But some people she gets extra excited for. A lot of times these dogs, the issues get worse when they don't get enough exercise, but getting them out and getting them exercise also takes a little bit of their energy away, so they have less energy to devote to attention seeking and jumping and all of those things. Obedience practice is another good way to tire them out, especially because attention seeking usually requires both mental and physical energy. So if you're using up both with exercise and obedience, then you're going to tire them out enough that they may exhibit it less. This is not a fix. This is just a band-aid for it. But again, going back to setting boundaries, that's a more permanent solution. But another step, which is what we learned when we got Kaya, is that when they entertain themselves, so for example, Kaya has a toy box downstairs, and if my mom and I go to watch a movie and we stop paying attention to her, she will go downstairs, get one of her toys, and bring it upstairs and lay on the carpet and entertain herself for the entire movie. And that's a really good sign that they're not attention seeking. So you want to reward that, because then they'll continue to do it more. So then, for example, when somebody comes over to your house, instead of launching themselves at that person and just being like, pet me, pet me, pet me, they'll go and get a toy and come and lay down and just be there. They don't have to be involved in everything. They like to be present, but they don't have to be, directly involved in everything that's going on. One of the things I typically recommend beyond the setting boundaries is flower essences, because they tend to work really, really well with dogs that are either attention seeking. Separation anxiety is probably the most common behavioral issue I get called to work on. So I have done this quite a few times. Most cases, it's the owner reinforcing it unconsciously. So for example, if their dog gets nervous about something and runs over, they immediately pick them up and say, oh, no, it's okay, don't worry. And then it interrupts their day. So they're trying to do something like leave the house or make food or have an interview with somebody, and it interrupts everything. So the flower essences are a really big thing. There are quite a few acupressure points as well that help with grounding, separating the animal's energy from yours, So a lot of pet parents pick up on their owner's issues. And again, because anxiety and separation anxiety are becoming more and more common in our society, our pets are picking that up and they have the exact same issues. So I'm not surprised that anxiety is one of the most common issues that I work on. But again, anxiety is different than nervousness. Anxiety is different than fear because it's a deeper feeling in the body. Fear and terror are, somebody's going to hurt me and I don't know what to do. But anxiety is, I don't know what's happening and I need to know what's going on. Because they like to know what's going on in their environment, and a lot of times, for example, if a plumber comes over to fix something, Kai likes to greet them and then sit and watch. She won't necessarily get in the way, but she likes to know what's going on, especially because this is her territory. She's not territorial of the house whatsoever, but she gets excited when people come over. But it's a good way to work on the issue constantly, having something like flower essences that work at the behavioral level while not altering the personality. A lot of medications can alter the personality of the dog, make them more lethargic, or they don't want to play anymore, or they're not as eager to interact with people. But flower essences are completely harmless. I've used them on Kaya quite a few times, but just having something to give them every day that doesn't hurt them makes the issue go away faster. Because acupressure works great, and usually I recommend the two together, but having something on a daily basis as well as the tune-up every couple of weeks really helps to remove the behavior. So in the case of a dog not leaving a person alone while trying to do something else, like watch TV, that's the exact type of situation that I'm describing, Monica. So she asked how would I handle a dog not leaving a person alone while trying to do something else? So the first thing would be setting boundaries. So for example, if you were trying to cook dinner and your dog was attached to your leg, try taking them over to one of their favorite spots, getting them to stay there, and then walking away. So you can do it in little increments. So for example, if their stay command lasts about 2-3 minutes, that's still pretty high for most dogs. Go over and reward them at the end of the 2-3 minutes and then see if they'll stay there. Put a toy there and see if they'll stay. They can still see you, but they're not interrupting the behavior. And then the longer they stay there, just keep saying good boy or good girl until they acknowledge that that's what they're supposed to do. And once they're rewarded for doing what they're supposed to do, they'll start replacing the behavior. So then every time you go to make food, your dog will start associating you at the, kitchen island making food to, oh, okay, I'm supposed to go lay down here. So it's changing the association in their brain between what you're doing and what they're supposed to be doing. So a lot of people do this for dogs that jump as soon as you walk in the house, because they train their dog that when somebody comes to the door, when the doorbell rings, you go to your bed where you can see the door and you can see who's coming in, but you don't jump on them. So it's just making that association repeatedly that will help them rewire their brains a little bit to, this is what they want me to do when this trigger happens. And obviously the flower essences would help quite a bit with that. And the size of the dog also can have quite a bit to do with it, because the bigger dogs can be a little more pushy sometimes, and they obviously weigh more. So it can be, they're physically trying to get in your space and you have to separate it, but you don't want to reward them with treats when they stop pushing you or when they push you, because then you're reinforcing the behavior, right? So it's creating a new trigger in their brain to get the response that you want. So this is basic operative conditioning. So if you want your dog, whatever you want them to do while you're making food or watching TV, if you want them to lay at your feet at the couch, that's a tough one. Been working on it all. My bulldog is huge and very pushy. Yeah, so for example, if you want to watch TV and your dog just keeps trying to get in your lap or push your legs if you put them up, put down a little towel beside the couch and teach them that this is their bed while this is happening. So if you want them, get them to lay down on the bed and reward them for being on the bed. Then go back to what you're doing, and slowly over time, when you assume the position of laying on the couch and watching TV, they will go to their bed and maybe even go get a toy or something and entertain themselves while you're watching TV. But the idea is basically to slowly rewire their brains so that you can do what you want to do and they're not stressed out about it. They're not keep trying to get your attention, but you can still do what you need to do and they're not stressed out. Because a lot of times in the beginning they can get stressed out. They're saying, what do you mean? You're not paying attention to me. How do I do this? But putting that routine in their head will help to remove that anxiety. I hope that answers your question, Monica. The snow is picking up already, so I hope everybody is staying safe. That is all I have to say about attention-seeking pets. If you have more questions or you have other topics you want me to talk about, feel free to send me a message. I'm always open to ideas or requests because I've covered all the pet holidays and things like that. I'm trying to cover more educational topics now, but I like to do cases once in a while, like Sadie the dog from Winnipeg that I talked about at the beginning. It's ice raining here. Oh god. Well, I still can't get over the fact that it was snowing and then freezing rain and then raining and then snowing again here. So I really don't know what's happening, but it's supposed to it's supposed to snow about 15 centimeters. So do be careful. I don't know what the topic is for next week yet, but I will get back and see you next Tuesday. Have a great day, guys.